So I've been following along with your story, and I've also had 3 miscarriages.
Oh my
And
goodness.
after those miscarriages, was told, I think not dissimilarly from your doctor, that I should explore IVF, which was
Yes.
a shock to me. Like I was literally in the room after the ultrasound, and it was like, how did I not know this was the next step in the process? And one of the reasons that I really wanted to start this podcast is I feel like there's so much mystery and stigma. And I really appreciate what you have done in terms of talking out, both you and your husband. And I feel like I'm in this club with other women. It's like a club that none of us wanted to be a part of, but I have sort of felt
Totally.
like a sister in arms alongside you. So I'm really appreciative that you're having this conversation and willing to be open. And I speak from experience when I say it's helpful to hear these things.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been a really cathartic experience because just like you, I haven't really even known who to turn to. And I feel like I've turned to social media because there are so many people out there that feel the same way, and it's become like a really amazing support system. I get it, and it's so tough and it's so weird and it feels like it's stigmatized and it's a big mystery, but it's also one of those things that you realize that you don't know anything about it because you haven't been in it yet. And obviously, then once
Exactly.
you get in it, you realize how much stuff there is to know. As much as it happens, it's rare to find someone in like your inner circle that's had the same experience. And so it's just really nice to like connect with all these people that have that. It can be challenging at times because then I feel like sometimes I'm second guessing myself, and like you can't really compare your journey to anybody else's because all of our
Right.
bodies are so different and our circumstances are so different. But at the same time, like, yeah, it's been the most rewarding part of like my whole career sharing all this stuff because it's felt like the one thing that has really hit people's like core and has made people feel like not so alone in a moment when so many women feel unnecessarily alone.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm hoping that we can sort of start in the present and then work our way back to like the happy story that it all began with your son Sonny. So can you tell me a little bit about where you and your husband are in your journey now?
Basically, we're in the discovery phase. We had a consultation with a fertility doctor before we had our winter break. We now go in a couple weeks to do like the first testing, like blood testing, follicle testing, and then Timmy gets his sperm tested. And then we kind of take it from there. I've been sent a list of like supplements and vitamins and diet, recommendations to start to get into for both Timmy and I. And I'm like a little bit overwhelmed already. It already starts to feel like, oh my gosh, now someone else is like watching my life. It's also hard for me because I just had actually it's so weird talking about this stuff that's like so vulnerable and intimate to a complete stranger, but like
I
so
know.
real. And
Yeah.
but I only had my DNC like 3 weeks ago at this point. And so
Yeah.
I'm still very early in the discovery. Like I don't even know when my date of my last period is. And you realize like how much you have to get into like all those details and the timing. It just becomes like a whole
Yeah.
other like job.
It's such a good way to put it. And you become an expert in this area that you never wanted to be an expert in. And I found it was like being hit over the head with everything. It's really interesting that you went from a DNC into this next phase after a few weeks, which is similar to what I did. Did you feel like, okay, we've been so close so many times, I just want to get to this next step? Or did you and Timmy feel like we need to take a moment and process? How did you kind of balance the grieving with the action?
Yeah, I know. I part of me after it happened was like I need time. Like I need time to really process this. Like I don't want to make any decisions. I don't want to be on anybody else's timeline but my own. And then after like 2 weeks of that, I sort of started to feel this urge. Maybe it was because my experience with grief has been all too familiar and I've kind of been able to recover pretty quickly. It's weird how like numb you get to things when they start to happen over and over. It's kind of sad actually, but it's just I think our body's like way of defense, you know, defending ourselves against anything that feels uncomfortable. After like a couple weeks, I was just like, you know, I'm not getting any younger. Like I know that this is something that we want. Why not just start the discovery now and see what happens? I don't want to put a time on it. Like, I just want to see what the process is and be curious about the process and not try to like put restrictions on ourselves before we even know what we're dealing with here, you know?
Yeah. I felt really similarly. We jumped right from 3 miscarriages to IVF because we didn't know the reasons for the miscarriages. So they assume that it's for chromosomal reasons. And so it's basically get embryos so that you can test them and then, you know, transfer a healthy one. I found that it was almost really helpful to be like deeply in the moment in those things and just focus on like the next step. So when you had your 3rd miscarriage, you recorded, I think it was that night, and decided to kind of share with people. Can you tell me about that time and that decision?
I was feeling all these feelings that I didn't really know where to put them and I didn't know who to tell them to. It just didn't feel like I wanted to dump them onto Timmy. It didn't feel like a need for a therapy session. It didn't feel like I wanted to burden it like with my mom or sisters or whatever. I just had clarity about how I felt and I wanted to share that because I thought that it's like such a moment where it's so raw for people. I really wanted to just like catch that because I felt like it's, you know, so much of what we see out there is like produced, and I don't know, I just felt this urge to share, and so I just recorded it on my phone, like just pacing around my room.
He looked at the ultrasound and looked at me and raised his eyebrows and just shook his head, and in that moment I just knew, and it just felt like Groundhog's Day. Like, just the feeling of grief is all too familiar.
I just feel like the more I share, the easier it is for me to release. Like it's like a method of talking, it's a method of therapy. And I find that the more that I talk about it, the less it hurts. Like now I can talk about it and I can really feel like I've like processed it and thought about it and molded over and shared it. And like it doesn't feel as raw for me. And so I use sharing as that for myself. And I think it helps in that way for other people as well.
So what were you feeling when you got that news at the doctor's office that day?
I was honestly shocked. Like I went to the doctor by myself because Timmy and I had just been in a week before and everything looked great. And we were just like really hopeful because we thought there was no reason not to just be hopeful. You know, I was really shocked and I just immediately welled up and had to kind of pull myself together. And it's very like, it makes you feel really alone that moment. Even if Timmy were there, like it just makes you feel like this feeling that there's just nothing anybody can do but you to like pick yourself up and like help you recover. And so I remember feeling that, and then it's like startling, it's like done, and then he's like, let's go to our office and talk. And like you, we had that same conversation. All of a sudden it was like, you should go talk to well, not you should, but he said, you know, if this is something that you really want, I would, you know, limit your risks and go speak to a specialist.
How did you feel when you heard that?
I kind of knew it was coming.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I sort of felt like I had heard that after 3 miscarriages, that was when you maybe go for a little bit of help. Not necessarily like straight to IVF, but like start to maybe look at getting things tested.
I think a lot of women also don't realize that when you get that news, you have to make a decision about how to proceed. So can you talk a little bit about with this miscarriage and your previous ones, did you know that you wanted to have a D&C? Did you consider waiting, taking a pill? What were your options?
Yeah. I mean, now after 3, like you have more of it down and you kind of like unfortunately know the process and know your preferences. Even from the first 2, I was offered the pill and I didn't want to do that and then like basically self-administer something and then like watch myself and go through the process of like the cramping and the bleeding and whatnot, even though after my first DNC I had that anyways because it wasn't fully cleaned out. So that was something that I didn't know was like a thing either. My previous after the DNC, like the recovery was very easy, I will say. That's one thing for anybody that has to go through that. At least for me, for the first 2, it was really easy and there's no pain or discomfort or anything. But yeah, after for the third one, I had to go in and get it like cleaned out again.
Oh, Whitney,
and that was
awful.
not pretty. I know. So that's the stuff that you don't realize that like you have to deal with, like the aftermath of the pregnancy and a miscarriage. It's like, it's just a lot of like going back to that place of loss again and with dealing with each one of these like physical issues. It just like takes your mind to a sad place. It's obviously sad to have to go through those losses and to have these new losses remind you of old losses, but this is life. Like we're getting older. I'm 36 years old now. Like I am trying to learn from all of this, obviously, and have perspective on all of it and look at everything else that I'm so grateful for. Like I know it sounds so cheesy, but I feel like in this whole fertility journey, I've learned that like I'm so lucky to even just have Sonny. You know what I mean? If nothing comes from this, like I don't want to look at it as a loss.
I totally agree, but I also think that it's like we have to give ourselves grace. What does Sonny say about, I mean, does he ask for siblings? He
does.
How do you sort of talk about this journey with a kid who's so little?
Yeah. I mean, that's been a really hard part because I don't want to like hide stuff from him. I want to be honest with him. I feel like even a 4-year-old can like sense when something's going on or when there's conversations happening without them. But we tried to explain that there was like a baby growing, but that it sometimes works. It sometimes like the baby sometimes keeps growing and sometimes it stops growing. And he says, well, maybe it just needs more time. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Like in the simplest terms, like we just need a little bit more time.
So tell me a little bit about how your miscarriages differed. I was really surprised that they got harder as I went on and had more of them. Like I thought, oh, I'll get more used to it. You kind of know the process. It's not a mystery. I found each one more shocking, I guess, because I had this idea of, oh, you know, people have pregnancy losses, but I didn't know anyone who had so many pregnancy losses. So it felt like it was just more and more surprising. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about how that first one compared to the second, compared to the third, emotionally speaking.
Yeah. So interesting. I had really such different reactions to all 3 of them. After the first miscarriage, I felt something like a release, like it felt like it wasn't the right time. It felt like, I don't know, wrong of me to feel that way, especially when I'm in a place to have a second, like want to have a second. And with, you know, the love of my life, like, why should I feel this way? It was like maybe a little bit of a defense mechanism, like putting a wall up against like really feeling the grief about it. The second time I felt really defeated. That one was really the hardest for me. And then the third one, It was more, I don't know. It was like I was saying before, it was like a little bit of this numbness kind of set in where
Yeah.
I just sort of felt like, all right, now kind of like what's next?
How does Timmy's way of processing this differ from yours, or how similar is it? You guys have such a wonderful, supportive relationship. It's so clear. How is he going through it as compared to you?
Timmy is very much a like brush it off, shake it off, like let's move forward kind of a guy. And so I think Timmy, when we found out each time, has been devastated and been in his feelings for a few days. He's just like a positive thinker. Yeah, which I like envy, you know? Like there's just something that there's not like the lack of analyzation that sometimes I feel like I do.
That's funny. My husband is very similar. And sometimes I think that people are drawn to other people who balance each other out in these situations. And one of the big realizations I had while going through this whole journey was like, what an incredible partner I chose. I found that to be like a small silver lining as I went through it.
It really does bring you closer. I feel like right now we're in this phase. I feel like I'm nervous about stuff. So like nervous about this whole process. So I feel like it's sort of, you know, it's bound. I don't know. I feel like it can come between a couple and like I'm anxious about it and he's not. And so that is sort of like you want to get on the same page, obviously.
So let's talk about your journey to having Sonny and what that was like. So tell me, was Sonny a surprise? Talk about that, sort of the trying to conceive part of the journey.
Sonny was so easy to conceive. Like, that's why I feel like I never even thought about this or, knew about it, just because Sonny was so easy. It was a year after we got married that we got pregnant.
So tell me about finding out that you were pregnant. Did you have symptoms? What tipped you off?
My period was just like a couple days late, and my period was just always on time. I wasn't feeling anything yet. So I took a test, and I remember we were getting ready to go to a Pilates class together, and I like took a test and I set it on the bathroom counter, and I like went to go get ready and put my clothes on, and Timmy saw the results and was like, "Oh my God, it says yes." And I was like, "Oh my God." And
wait, so did you mean for him to see it before
No.
you, or you just kind of forgot that it was there waiting?
I just kind of like, I guess maybe I took a couple seconds longer than he did to check it. And like, I just didn't think I was. Like, I just really didn't think I was. So anyways, that happened. I remember we like got in the car to go to the Pilates class. I immediately called my mom. She like screamed at the top of her lungs. And Timmy's parents were obviously so thrilled. Like it was sad. It was sad for me on one hand because, you know, I envisioned obviously telling my dad as well and hearing like that excitement in his voice. And sometimes like seeing my mom celebrate the joys like reminds me of my dad's loss, and so it's like more in my face in those happy moments. We were elated. I had no idea what was about to come. Like zero. I was the first one of all my friends to get pregnant.
What was the first trimester like for you? When did you start having symptoms? And were you sick with Sonny as well?
The 7 weeks, I think 6-7 weeks was when it really started to hit. I was feeling like I so nauseous, like all I wanted to do was throw up, but I couldn't throw up, and no food sounded like, nothing sounded good, but I was starving. Like I had to keep my stomach full, or else I would get so nauseous, but like everything sounded disgusting. Oh my God. And all day long, all you're thinking about is food in the most like love-hate way.
So did that prompt you? I'm curious, did you have to tell people sooner than you would have because you were feeling so sick?
Yeah, for sure. Like especially people I worked with, because I like just couldn't show up to stuff and couldn't perform the way that I wanted to. I had to tell a lot of people, and I didn't really mind that. Like I've never really been a person that's like believed in the karma of all that. Maybe I should think twice about that now. But like, I
No,
just
tell me a little bit
yeah.
about that though, because you've been so open with your fans and your followers. It sounds like from your first pregnancy, you just are sort of like wanting to share and be open about it and not, I think that old rule of 12 weeks, like great if that works for some people. For some people, they won't. Like I wanted to wait till like 20 weeks to tell people. Some people are happy to tell sooner. So how did you kind of come to that decision?
For me, it felt like I was keeping a secret, and it felt like I was not sharing this huge part of my life that I felt like would not only possibly, I don't know, help others or like start a conversation about something, but also maybe like help me release something. Like I just needed to release it, and I need to share how I was feeling. And I just felt like I was holding something in, and I kind of felt like I wanted people to hold my hand through it.
So what was the rest of the pregnancy like? Were you feeling good? When did you start to feel excited and start planning for the birth and for Sonny's arrival?
I can't even remember at this point. When you go through so many different phases and stages that like you black out all of those things. Like my last trimester, we were really focused on moving. So we were living before in this loft space in Venice. It was like all open, airy loft space, no doors, no privacy. We were like, we can't have a baby here. I mean, we could have, but we just like
not ideal for a little baby.
Yeah. We needed like a more practical setup. So we moved out like 2 weeks before I had Sonny. The day I put the last box in this house, I was like, oh my God, I think I'm going into labor. And like it ended up just being, I think, cramps from obviously putting my body out that day from moving. But
you guys really cut it close though.
Yeah.
That is no joke. 2 weeks. Wow.
We had Sonny. We spent then the next 2 weeks grinding, like getting the house ready, getting the nursery ready, like making things comfortable. And then he came on his due date. 2 weeks after we moved in.
Oh, I love that. My son was born on his due date too, which is like, I've
Really?
heard something like only 5% of babies are born on their due dates.
Yeah.
It's very, very rare. So tell me about that day. How did you know that it was happening?
So my water broke in the middle of the night, but I thought I had peed my pants. So I actually just went back to sleep because it wasn't like a gushing thing. Like my sister said hers broke, like it gushed out of her, and then like she soaked through blankets like on the way to the hospital. Sometimes I still wonder if that was even my water breaking. But I went back to sleep, and then I woke up and started like feeling cramping at like 7
So you didn't even tell Timmy when you thought you went to bed?
No, I
like,
just
"Oh,
went
I'll
back
just
to
go
sleep.
back to bed.
Yeah. The fact that I didn't put 2 and 2 together, like so classic me. So we woke up the next morning, we called the doctor, we tell her like how far apart things are. And she's like, okay, just like start getting ready. Don't need to come in yet. Just like lay down, start getting ready, keep your eye on things. So we laid in bed. I had my hospital bag packed.
Were you someone who like overpacked though? Like, did you bring every last thing?
Yeah. No, I overpacked. I brought everything. And then the most random things ended up being the things that I like, the battery operated candles that I never thought I would use them, but someone told me to like set the vibe to put them in there. And we ended up turning off the lights and putting them all over the room, and it like really set a tone.
I love that.
Yeah. But so we waited at home. I think we watched Mighty Ducks, was it? Or like, no, we watched Major League. We watched Major League.
Oh my God.
I remember someone had told me to eat something before going because once you go checked in, you are not able to eat anything. So as we were timing things, and I was like, let's go eat something before we go. So we even went to Bristol Farms. I ate a full meal with contractions.
Do you remember what you ate?
And I ate, I remember from like the hot bar, I got brisket. I think I got like orange chicken and like vegetable fried rice. And I just like filled my body up because I was so afraid I was going to be hungry.
And what was your mental state like? Were you nervous?
I was pretty relaxed, honestly. I was very accepting of the unknown. And I think that in this regard, ignorance is bliss. Like, I'd had such a seamless pregnancy. I was young. I just wasn't wrapped up in worries. Like, I was, of course, worried that a human was coming out of my body, but I don't know. I felt, my sister even said to me, I remember Jade telling me, like, I hope that I'm this calm when I go into labor.
And who was with you at the hospital? Did you have, I think I read that your mom was there?
Everyone. So my mom and Timmy were in the room while I was pushing, but like in the waiting room, it was all my siblings. I have 4 siblings, like their spouses, my in-laws. Since Sonny came on his birthday, they had already planned to come in on his birthday, so they came and were there by the evening. It was,
so you guys like took over the waiting room.
It was like
at the
15
hospital.
people in the waiting room. Yeah,
it's like in a movie. I feel like that never actually happened.
I know. And we didn't know the sex either, so it really was like a real movie moment when he came out and Timmy could go into the waiting room and scream like, it's a boy. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so amazing. So tell me about your mom and Timmy are there when you're pushing. What was going through your head when that started?
So the pushing and the IV in my wrist, I remember being like the hardest parts of labor. Those have been the takeaways for me. And then the pushing, I pushed for an hour and a half, and it was the most exhausting, like, physical work of my life. Like, I was ready to give up so many different times, and my doctor was like, there's no giving up. Like, you can't, there's no option. Like, there's no way out.
So how did you motivate yourself during those 90 minutes?
So it was like a lot of counting. I mean, now that I think back on 90 minutes, oh my God, in the moment you're not realizing it's so much time. But there was like a lot of counting, and then like Timmy and my mom holding hands underneath my head and like pushing me up to push.
Oh, Whitney, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And then finally towards the end, the doctor gave me the option to like do a little cut to make things go a little bit faster and to not have me like just push out on my own and not have the tearing as bad. So I was glad that I did. Then that moment is just like mushiness, you know? Like, all you want to do is hear.
So tell me about it though. Like, you push Sonny out. When do you learn that it's a boy?
I look down and I see like bright red balls, and I'm like, oh my, like I see that before I even hear it's a boy. And then I hear from the doctor, it's a boy. And I'm like, oh, I'm like so relieved because I really wanted a boy. We were set on our boy name and we weren't set on our girl name. And I was like, okay, now I don't have to deal with that.
So what was it like when you held Sonny for the first time?
I felt this protective nature, like I was never going to have like a solid night's sleep again. Like, I just knew, it's so cheesy, but it's something that just feels like this little piece of your life that's a puzzle that just like fits in, you know? I can't explain it. Like, it just made me feel like my experience was going to be greater. My like experience of life was just going to be like richer and greater, like now being able to see it again through his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, it just gave me a whole new fresh perspective on life, which I definitely needed.
That's really special. So tell me about those few hours. Did you literally have like 15 people visiting you in the postpartum bed?
So then there were just like little waves of people coming in, and I was into it. I was relaxed. I feel like, I don't know, because I'm the middle child of 5 kids, like I'm just used to having a lot of people around, and it wasn't like a thing for me.
You are like the chillest new mom ever. Like,
I guess.
No one I've spoken to is like, me and my partner were both like relaxed, and then afterwards we relaxed. That's really impressive.
I know. I mean, afterwards, once the baby came home, I was not relaxed, but like leading up to it, I was pretty relaxed. Yeah.
So tell me about bringing Sonny home from the hospital. What do you remember about that day?
I remember Oh my God, I remember the car seat situation, just like how most new moms or new parents, when they get the newborn in the car seat, never feel like it's on correctly. Like they look so small, it doesn't look right. You're so nervous. Like that's just the scariest moment. It feels like too soon for them to be in a moving vehicle. But
Right.
that ride home, I remember coming home to a pretty full house, which was actually comforting for me in that moment. But after the next few days, I started to realize how much like of my space I needed. But I remember feeling that night like an anxiety coming over me, like, oh my God, this is now my responsibility. Like, and I started
Right.
having all these fearful things of what could happen to him. Like, I started to have all these visions. And I
Do you
also
think in retrospect it was postpartum anxiety?
I think a little bit for sure. I didn't really feel a need to diagnose myself because it didn't feel like something in the moment. It didn't feel like it was taking over. But then once the
Right.
breastfeeding stuff started to creep in, like that led into full on, I think, postpartum anxiety that I probably could have utilized some help with. But I didn't know what I was dealing with at the time.
So what was so anxiety riddled about that it was harder than you imagined?
Yeah, I mean, the night I got home, my nipples were already like so like chafed and dry and bloody and painful, that I couldn't breastfeed anymore. And so all of a sudden I was like, what is Sonny going to eat? And I didn't even that wasn't even something that I had thought about yet. I hadn't talked to a lactation specialist at the hospital, which is something that I highly recommend. Like when you are at the hospital, to make sure that you visit with a lactation specialist before you leave.
And what was that like for you emotionally? Was it, because I went through a version of this too, was it disappointing? Did you feel guilty, or were you typical you and you felt kind of relaxed about all of it?
No, no. This was when things got really hard for me emotionally and I started to feel really ridden with guilt. Like I stopped breastfeeding after 2 weeks because it was just too hard for me. It was just too painful. And, the pumping seemed to be easier for me, and I was able to get enough milk to feed him exclusively with breast milk for 6 months. I told myself I was going to get through the 6 months, and that's something that I wouldn't do again. Like I would never put that much pressure on myself, because looking back on it, those 6 months like were a complete blur. I was just so
Yeah.
focused on getting through that breastfeeding, the pumping, the breastfeeding, the whole job of it, also getting mastitis 3 times. Like,
Oh my God, Whitney.
yeah, it was a mess. It was a total mess. And that's also been something that I think, like when I got pregnant the first time and had that miscarriage, I think part of that relief came from the fear of having a second, because I was still not so close to the first, but closer to the first, where it was fresher in my brain. And I was like, I am not ready to go through this again.
Specifically the breastfeeding and the pumping and making those decisions. Wow.
Yes. I was like, I do not want to be faced with this kind of guilt or this kind of like discomfort or this kind of issue again. That the breastfeeding was by far the hardest thing for me to deal with through all this.
Have you and Timmy talked about, if another baby comes along, like, do you have a plan for that to give yourself a little bit more grace and space with
Yes.
how you feed the baby?
For sure. The plan is that if I start to feel those those feelings again, where I feel overcome by it and I'm not able to enjoy having a newborn, and I'm not happy, and I know specifically I'm not happy because of this, to like really listen to that and not let the guilt override those feelings.
I'm curious how the process of being pregnant, having Sonny, motherhood, how is it different from what you expected? How did you envision it before you were a mom versus how is it really now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I looked at my mom as an example of what motherhood was going to be like. And my mom seemed to just be like a very also seamless, natural mom. Like, she was a mom to 5 kids. She always made it look easy. She also wasn't working and was like raising children in like a totally different day and age, obviously. And so I think for me, I had this naive thought of like how easy and seamless it was going to be. And I didn't realize, naive me, I didn't realize obviously how much it was going to like infiltrate my life in so many ways. And also become such a huge part of my career too. Vulnerability about motherhood would become something that would become such a huge part of what I talk about on a daily basis.
Oh, that's so interesting.
This fertility journey, like I now face how much do I share and like how much do I not share, and that is part of like the vehicle that keeps the social media engine running, so you have to think about those things. Like all of a sudden so much of your personal becomes professional, and I don't think I realized how much of that motherhood journey how much that would happen with that.
Have you and Timmy talked about how much you want to share of this fertility journey that you're going on? How much you'll share?
Yeah, I am kind of fully ready to just like go full force, share everything.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could be that detail oriented about like it's day 3 of like show the whole thing diary style. I don't know that that's my style of keeping track, but I think that we will do updates and we will follow along in the way that I do my social.
And do you feel like if and when you get pregnant again, will you feel a desire to share it early on like you have in the past?
I don't know. I think I'll see how I feel in the moment. I do feel like it is cathartic to be able to share it. It feels like this weight lifted off my shoulders, and it feels like I can actually then talk about what's really going on with me as opposed to like cover it up for 3 months or whatever. Part of me feels a need to maybe do things differently.
Yeah. Well, you'll see how you feel in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Whitney, I'm so happy for you, and I'm wishing you all the best in your journey, and I'll be rooting for you on the sidelines and following along. Like I said, when we first started talking, it was like a real comfort to me to hear from someone else who had been through something similar. So I think that lots of other women probably feel the same way.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I am so grateful for this opportunity. I'm sorry that you have had to deal with this too, but I think it's so wonderful that you are doing this podcast and having these thoughtful conversations.
Thank you.
Yeah, have asked me a lot of questions that I still even need to formulate opinions on, like really insightful, awesome questions that I need to reflect on a little bit. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Well, we've been through a lot of the same things, so I feel like we can put ourselves in each other's shoes.